Okay, so today we are going to talk about the shift right mindset. As we know that traditionally the testing is very preventive, and we started from the very earliest, like from the requirement phases, right? And that is basically known as shift left testing. But today we are going to talk about a principle which is opposite of shift left. So I'm introducing myself. I'm Sparsh. I am a senior QA automation specialist at OneClick LCA, and also I provide training for manual and automation testing. Now, moving ahead to our topic, I think this is one situation which, being a QA, we like every QA has faced this thing that your deployment is good, your testing is good, your manual testing, automation, regression, everything is fine. Still, sometime happens that your production behaves differently. So we need to understand the fact that why it happens. We sometimes go check our automation script. It is fine. We go check the manual test cases, like traditionally what we do. We check everything and it seems like everything is fine. Then what happens? So we need to understand that many times your test environment is not uh, exactly equal to what is going on in the real world. Practicing or testing within your company, within your zone, is not equal to when you apply something in the real world. It gives you a different pressure, it gives you some different configuration. Many times, or I think all the time, the test users are not the same as real user. So like what we do while testing, sometimes it is not the same what real user do on the production environment, right? And similarly, the third point, the data which we are using, it realistic. It is not a real data. So production data is also one important thing which we miss while testing because we cannot use that, right? Sometimes the domain is there, like when you talk about the email domain, it is not the same which is on production. What we do is we alter something, we mask that data and then test it. But when it comes to production, it behaves differently. Now, what we need to understand is that when we test before any release, like on a staging environment, maybe on the dev environment, every kind of testing we do, testing doesn't stop at release. So there is a concept which we need to understand that while testing on your test environment is always not the same thing. Let's take an example of Netflix. So while checking the video playback, if Netflix would only test the video playback simulation, can it reproduce the issue what millions of users are facing while watching their application for hours, for whole night, maybe doing some changes or for a long hour and continuously changing the content and doing many things? Can they simulate this? The answer is no. So what they need? They need some real kind of monitoring, some real time based monitoring. They need the continuous feedback. They need whatever the log says. So this is only possible when you test on the production environment. So this is something which go beyond your testing, beyond your release cycles. Now, how we can achieve it? There are few points, just like monitoring, continuous monitoring, including some uh, known failures, which is known as chaos engineering, and continuous logging and tracing, continuous feedback. So when we get that continuous feedback, when we get the monitoring logs, then that's where when we get to know that what actual user is using, what actual user is doing. And we have some tools as well, just like Datadog, Prometheus, Grafana, Kibana, Chaos Monkey, and also some big organization, they set up their own monitoring logs as well. So it is again very important that we just not test the convention in the conventional way. We just not test the test cases which are written. We just not test the automation. What we need to do is we need to go beyond that. And when production becomes your test environment, then actually you get to know that what a real user is facing. Right. Now, there are few more strategies which we can see as releasing something safely in the production. Here are few examples. First is known as A/B testing, second is canary, and third is blue-green deployment. So these are some example of you can say testing strategy or the release strategy or the deployment strategies. But the thing is, we need to keep in mind that there are few strategies by which we can either shift the user traffic, shift to the or maybe give the two different release versions, or maybe give two configuration so that we can switch between two and mitigate the impact which user is facing. So I'll explain about all these three in the Slack channel. If like here it is not possible to explain all these things like very in a descriptive way. Now, what we need to do as an overall tester. So doing shift left, being preventive is one important thing. Then moving on to your conventional testing, like checking your test cases, doing the automation. That is again one conventional part which everybody does. And the important part is doing the shift right, means that moving your testing towards the right and using the actual users thing, using the production data, the production user, or actually that production playground, then only you'll get to know that what actually the end user is facing. I would like to give one example which I faced while uh, like I was working with a company where we have released something, and we got to know that after releasing in few minutes we got to know that one payment API in a particular region was giving 500, like the API was giving 500 spikes, and we got to know uh, within minutes by our monitoring logs, right? When we checked, it turned out that on that specific AU region, one payment method was not working. When we tried here with our test order on that environment, we got to know, okay, that this is not working. And while investigating, we got to know that there was some changes, some refactoring in that particular payment method, and that information was not in our sandbox, right? But the thing is, okay, we know that something has failed on production, but what we could achieve from there? We could actually minimize that impact, minimize the business loss. Suppose that monitoring would not have been there, then what would have happened? Maybe we got to know after 2 days, because sometimes the release is on Friday, and then we come back on Monday, and then we see that okay, millions of users have done something, and they could not they could not do the payment because of that particular payment method, and there would be a high impact, there would be a high business loss. So by introducing those monitoring, observability, logging, continuous feedback, we can achieve a good measure of testing, and also we can be a bit preventive. So thank you so much. You can connect me on Slack channels. I'll share more about the tools, more about the release strategy on the Slack channels, and you can connect me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Bye bye.